Welcome everyone to today's interview. Today in the studio, I have Gila the Cancer Alchemist. Gila, it is wonderful to have you. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you so much, Einav. It's a pleasure being with you again.
Awesome. So let's get everyone on the same page. Tell us a little bit about you.
Right. My name is Gila, and 30 years ago, around 30 years ago, I've been diagnosed with a terminal cancer. I was quite odd in the way that I've been diagnosed because when many people get like few months to live, like predictions that they have few months to live or few years to live, my prediction was that in my state, there was no chance of me even surviving the night. So it was like what they told me is that they've never seen anybody in my state. And from medical point of view, I can fall down and die any step I take, practically. So I had to deal with the most important and crucial subject of the cancer, which is basically death. Because death was so close to me at that moment, or I was so close to death at that moment, then cancer just shifts aside because it didn't really matter what is going to kill me. I had to look at to deal with my death. And as a result of that, I had the most amazing journey I could even imagine. Because once I agreed to die, I was the most free in my life to do whatever I want and to enjoy my life to the full until I die. That was my mission. Now, medically, I had a tumor which was 3 times the size of my heart. So they say that your fist is basically your heart. So if we take like 3 of my fists, we are looking into quite a large tumor. And this tumor was actually sitting above my heart, completely and utterly blocking my artery. And that's the reason for the diagnosis that they gave me, since my main artery, which is the main artery that goes from the heart and supplying blood directly to the brain, was fully and utterly blocked. So I had to face chemotherapy. I had to face chemotherapy, not that I wanted to do chemotherapy, and not because I really believe in chemotherapy. I don't really think that chemotherapy is the medicine for cancer. Okay, but I had a mother who was a nurse who practically, um, okay, let's put it this way. She said that if I'm not going to do chemotherapy, she's going to kill me before the cancer. So, so it's not like I had so much way to negotiate with her. Um, so I started to do the chemo. In the first week that I received the chemo, I realized that something is wrong over there. Something is definitely wrong with the treatment. Even before that week, I already prepared myself. I prepared myself, first of all, to accept the treatment in the first place. Because I remember the day when I was just after the biopsy operation, and I was lying in the hospital bed when my mom came to me and said, "You need to be brave. You need to think about chemo and all the rest of it." And I'm sorry, but chemo doesn't really have a very good public relations, if you know what I mean. So it's not like I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna I'm gonna have chemo." And in the same time, I was having the best time of my life. I was not about to force myself into doing nothing without accepting it. So I was lying in the hospital bed and I started to think about, okay, chemo, chemo. And the more I said chemo, chemo, suddenly I realized chemicals. The reason why it's called chemo, it's because it basically have chemicals. I was in my 30s. I was in the, I was still having fun in London. I just finished like many years of really having fun in London in the London clubs. It was 1995. At 1995, the kind of music in the clubs were techno and house music, meaning it was the music to go together with drugs, with the chemicals. Like if you wanted to be in the biggest research for drug use, it was in the clubs of London. Everybody was on chemicals, right? And I just had experience with that. And I didn't, even when I was clubbing, I really didn't like the chemicals. The chemical drugs, because chemical drugs have effects on you even after the trip is finished, which I really disliked. So to tell you I didn't take, yes, I did. I was testing it, and I did take like 2 or 3 or 4 times. I did took ecstasy in the days when I was in the club, but because my best friend was a magician, and we were trying to check the borders of how much we can, what is our ability to create changes only by our minds and thoughts. So when I was testing the drugs, I decided to do it in such an aware way that I will be able to copy the trip without taking the drug itself. And during that time of clubbing, I managed to do so. So basically, for many nights, I used to go into the club, and because others were on the chemicals, on the ecstasy, I just enjoy the ecstasy as if I just took the drug. Only at 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm tired because I'm not on the drugs and I'm not on chemicals in my body. So I'm now tired, I'm going to sleep. When the rest have to rave until 4 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock, and then they have to sit and they basically need to wait until the drugs will bring them back to normal, which is the part which I absolutely detested in this drug. And that's the reason why I never really used a lot of it, but just testing it. Now, so I'm arriving with this kind of knowledge to my cancer. That was my past. And so when I'm sitting over there in the hospital bed and I'm thinking, chemo, chemicals, I say, wait a minute. It's chemical drugs. Only in hospital, they don't really know how to make fun and how to take out the good part of the chemicals, because when I was in the clubs, oh, they're having fun out of these drugs. They know how to create a wonderful trip. So I start to suss out that what I really need to do, first of all, is to treat it as drugs and to treat it as chemicals. Now, in the clubs and people who are using drugs, they have rules about taking drugs. For instance, if you're depressed, you shouldn't really take drugs. Why? Because you're going to have a really, really bad trip. However, if you take drugs, and from my observation in the club and with my friends that used to take those drugs, It's like they used to prepare themselves mentally for the enjoyment of the trip. And that's what used to make it so wonderful. It's almost like, I used to call it like preparing the run, for in the airport, for when the plane wants to actually lift up, he needs this runaway, or how do you call it?
Yeah, the runway.
Runway. So I saw people actually creating the runway in order to receive the amazing trip out of those drugs. So the first thing I did, I started to apply those laws and those rules onto chemo. Now, people are mistaken when they're thinking that when I'm calling it chemoECSTASY, is that they're taking ecstasy. No, when I'm calling it chemoECSTASY, I mean the feeling of ecstasy, this extreme happiness, this extreme wonderful feeling that you have, that you are creating it when you know how to use the drug. And the drug which I'm talking about is the chemo. We only take chemo. But as a result, we do not suffer from the side effects of chemo. Now, so that was the first part. I start to look at it as drugs and actually apply the laws of drugs onto the chemo. The second thing that happened, I took the first treatment. And obviously, I realized something is really, really wrong over here. That's when I called Gidi, which is my friend who is a doctor and a surgeon, and he actually taught me biology. And I sat him down and I say, right, Gidi, please explain to me how chemo works. Because everything I did and everything I created or devised was based on biology, the biology that he taught me, that I was learning from him. So anyway, the story was that he started to explain to me exactly how chemo works. And I'm splitting myself, like I'm taking out my inner child, and I'm telling him, tell me the story so that even a 3-year-old kid can understand the story. Because my inner child is listening to you right now. And of course, me as well also listened to what he was saying. And as he explained how chemo works, not my inner child, but me, start to become hysterical. Why hysterical? Not really many people knows how chemo works. And they don't really understand that chemo is really have the ability to destroy the immune system in a very, very dramatic way. And that was basically about 2 weeks into me discovering the cancer. And I already knew what I have to do in order to heal. It's very, very simple to heal cancer. In order to heal cancer, the only thing you need to do is to become energetically millionaire. Simple as that. You need to live to the full. You need to enjoy yourself to the maximum, because that's create the energy. And once you're enjoying yourself and you live to the full, all the bodily functions will come back to normal. And that's when your body and your subconscious will receive the message alive, and they will respond to it. So I'm talking about healing on all the levels. And beside, it's wonderful to enjoy yourself, Why suffer? I had the best time of my life during the cancer. It was short because I did it so well that within 4.5 months I was fully healed, right? So anyway, So I'm coming back into Gidi just explains to me how the chemo works. And when I realize that chemo is destroying my immune system, and the only thing I really need to do is to restore my immune system back to function, it sounds to me like, what? How can I take chemo when all my efforts up to now is to restore my immune system, and now I'm going to destroy it? Anyway, as I was hysterical about it, I hear my inner child, the voice of my inner child, looking at me and saying to me, "What's the problem?" I said, "What do you mean, what's the problem? It's going to destroy the immune system." That's when my inner child told me one sentence. That was the sentence that led me to create chemoECSTASY. ChemoECSTASY, as I said before, is based on the biology. It's based on learning and understanding exactly how the chemo works and exactly what the problem of the chemo. Because I can tell you after I went through that, and by the way, when I'm saying I went through chemo, they suggested to start off the treatment with like 10 treatments. However, I only did 3 treatments. The only reason why I did 3 treatments is because in the way I was working from the inside with the chemo became so efficient that within only 3 treatments, I actually completely dissolved this huge tumor. So because I perfected the chemo, I saved my body from so much toxins that they could give me through the treatment. Now, I wasn't obedient to the conventional medicine because I took charge and I took responsibility for my healing, for my cancer, and for everything. So when I saw that my body helped the chemo working through it and completely dissolve that tumor, I say, I don't need the aid of the conventional medicine anymore, because I know the power of my communication with the body. That's the reason why I'm telling you the only reason why I love to teach chemoECSTASY is because you become a master on your on your immune system. I mean, in chemoECSTASY, you need to shut off the immune system and to turn it off again, to turn it back again.
And how I mean, first of all, of course, that sounds incredible. A lot of people, as you know, probably much better than I do, the chemo is not only the physical side effects and how it makes them feel, but also, of course, the fear that they have before they get started, right? It's the fear of the unknown and everything, all this, like you said, the bad reputation.
You have a very bad, how do you call it, public relations.
Yeah, yeah.
But the only problem, the reason why it has so many bad public relations is because people are taking the chemo without being aware of how it works and without working together with it. With chemoECSTASY, for instance, not only that it can save you from a lot of treatments, I was brave enough to fire my professors after the 3 treatments. Like, I took 1 treatment and then I fired the first professor. I moved to another professor just because I liked his protocol much better, which was the protocol of every 3 weeks, which I knew that it gives me enough time to bring back my immune system back to order. Plus, it was very important for me to work together with my immune system. Because as I said to my professor before he'd been fired, like, with all due respect, once you finish with all the drugs that you're giving me, Whom is going to protect me? You? No, you're going home to treat, or you're going to treat other people. But the only one who will protect my body will be my immune system. So please do not, I'm going to protect my immune system, and I'm not going to allow you to put my immune system aside as if it did something wrong. No. And conventional medicine absolutely cannot talk to the immune system, and they don't really do it. They do, one of the problems with the conventional medicine is that all through the board, they're dealing with symptoms. And it's exactly the same thing with the chemo. That's the biggest problem of the chemo. Because what does the chemo do? The chemo is a very, very dangerous tool, but it's a tool to attack and to take out of the body cancer cells. But with all due respect, the tumor, which is the one that have all these cancerous cells, which is made from those cancer cells, this is not the illness. People are under the impression that they're going and fighting the tumor. No, the tumor is the messenger, it's the symptom.
And
Because
so, what is the root cause?
the root cause is the immune system. Your immune system, that ever since you were being made in the womb, already started to take out from your body cancer cells on a daily basis, for some reason decided to stop doing its job.
Okay.
That is the root of cancer. And it's true to any cancer, regardless where it is in the body, regardless it's the name that they give it. Like, the only reason why we are under the impression that there are different cancers, there's no different cancer. Cancer is cancer, okay? The only reason why they separated the different cancers is because they have different protocols and different treatments to give to each cancer. Because obviously, my cancer, which was a lymph cancer, it's made out of the cells of the lymph nodes. If you have breast cancer, it's a cancer that's made out of the breast cells. Liver, it have the liver cells. Because remember, what is cancer? Cancer is basically your cell, the cell of your body that turned cancerous.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. So because they have different protocols and different chemicals to treat each one, that so from the conventional medicine point of view, they created that separation to say this is this cancer and this is this cancer and this is this cancer and this is that cancer, right? But even if you finish all the treatments of conventional medicine and you went home with what they call remission, you have not yet touched the root of cancer. To touch the root of cancer, only you can do it, because it's basically to bring back into harmony the three drivers. And the three drivers, I'm talking about your body, your soul, and your brain, ego. And so you need to really heal on all levels. But it's so simple basically to heal. From my point of view, healing cancer is the most easy thing that you can do. It's not for nothing I called my book Easy to Heal Cancer. Okay.
So what we are basically saying is that the root cause of cancer is when your immune system, for some reason, is stopped fighting or working on the cancerous cell.
It's not fighting, by the way. It's another terminology that we took from conventional medicine that really happens in the body in a most amazing, wonderful way. When I actually saw it, Giddy showed me, because he was working on research for immune system. He actually showed me slides from the microscope. And I will never forget the day when he showed me this slide where you see a T cell turning into a ball and really hugging inside it a cancerous cell. I was looking at it and I went like, wow, it's not war like I was thinking up to that point. It's a hugging war.
Okay.
The war which happened in our cell, on our cellular level, it's not the war that we know from the television and the war that we actually see it in the media anymore. No one bombard no one. Our body is so clever, and it works cell by cell. And when our body decides it needs to remove a cell, it will create a special cell to remove that cell. And it happens by hugging.
Okay. But so are you saying this hugging is, because what I was trying to say with the incorrect terminology, I get it, that the immune system is all the time is making sure that the cancerous cell are staying under control. And then
Well, it's not even under control. It's until the point of diagnosis. From the moment that person have been in the womb, or that person have been created in the womb, to whatever age he've been diagnosed, being 30, 40, 50, 60, his body was clearing out cancer cells on a daily basis, because in our cancer is the most daily thing that our body creates.
okay. So until such moment, I like this image that you just gave me. So every day the immune system is clearing out the cells that
Yeah.
that are the cancerous ones, but then one day that doesn't happen anymore, right? That's when the cancer cells become stronger. There's more of them, and
They're not stronger. They're basically from one cancer cell that haven't been taken away by the body and just allowed to stay there. What actually happened, cancer cell is the most stupid cell ever. Like, I'm teaching it in the 2 workshop which I'm giving to people. One of the workshop is the principles of healing. That's when we're going through the biology and learning exactly how it all works. Because once you really understand the story of the biology, most of your fears of cancer disappear.
and of course this is what we want to do, right? This is exactly what we want to do with this summit, is to bring this conversation so that there's less fear. But what I want
I don't even understand what they are fearing, because if they will start to learn the biology story, it's so easy. We have a doctor for cancer, and the real doctor for cancer in the universe is in our body, and it's called the immune system.
right.
We need to restore it. We need to restore our relationship with it. If you want me to give you a rough idea about how I'm teaching it, is basically our immune system. The reason why it couldn't actually work on cancer cells, it's because this is my theory, it's probably didn't had enough energy to do so. Because one of the biggest problem, and what I found every workshop I'm giving to people, and I'm only teaching people with cancer for the last 30 years, ever since I healed within 4.5 months, right? Every story of cancer, you will see that up to 8 years before the cancer have been discovered, there was crisis, an emotional crisis that went for a long period of time. We do not, when I'm teaching it, we do not deal with the crisis. We can identify where the crisis was, but who cares about what happened? We cares about from here and now. We're going to fix our relationship with our body from the here and now, step by step. That's how we're creating it.
So I just want to just summarize so I make sure that I understand everything that we spoke about so far. But basically, we are saying that everything is to do with the immune system, right? It clears the cancerous cell, and then one day there is no more energy for the immune system, and then the table turns. And now, when we have cancer and we have cancer diagnosis, basically what the chemo is doing is actually, instead of helping the immune system to thrive and get the energy back, it actually is killing it. And then that is the problem.
And that's
that is
the reason why many people do not survive the treatment. And they say that they died from cancer. Those people did not die from cancer. Those people died due to the fact that their immune system had been affected so much, and other parts of the body have been affected as well. And that's what we are preventing, and that's what we are preventing in the chemoECSTASY. Because what I'm doing with the chemoECSTASY is basically I'm teaching them, first of all, the principles of healing, to reduce all the fears, to learn how to work from the inside with all the different drivers. Then we're going into the immune system, and by then we already start to establish the body, which is how we are talking to our body.
Mm-hmm.
Then we need to support the body, and we need to restore the immune system back to function. That's what I call healing cancer. Because if you haven't brought your immune system back to function, you just arrived to remission. You just basically took away the symptom, but you are not healed. You can only heal once everything works back in a normal way, from my point of view.
And I think this is a very important conversation to have. So share with us, if you can, a little bit more about this method. How, first of all, I want to know, because you say, okay, you're still getting the chemo, even though we know that chemo is destroying the immune system. You're teaching people to somehow
not when you do the chemoECSTASY. ChemoECSTASY, not only you do not touch the immune system.
Right.
That's the reason why we don't have side effects.
Right. But what I was trying to say is that you are helping people to, it's like putting a bubble on the immune system so that the chemo is still there, but okay. So tell me what it is, because I'm clearly misunderstanding something.
Because we know exactly how the chemo works, one of the problems that people don't really understand or know, side effects of the chemo, and I'm talking about the daily side effects like the nausea, the vomiting, the perspiration, and all the rest of it. All of those effects, while they're very normal for the conventional medicine, when I understood how it works, I said, oh my God, all of those are signs that our immune system is about to attack the chemo, which is the most dangerous part of chemo.
Mhm.
I'm stopping my immune system from even attacking the chemo. And when I do that, there is practically no side effects. So when I'm teaching people how to do chemoECSTASY, they do not have those side effects.
Mhm.
And we are reducing drugs. When we're doing chemoECSTASY, we do not take steroids. And there's no extra pills for side effects because there's no side effects. The fact that there's no side effects just shows us that we are working correctly, because the side effects are the sign of the something bad is going to happen
Okay.
inside. So it's really protecting. Now, when I'm working on chemoECSTASY with people, it happens every time that the nurses, because every time they receive chemo, before they administer the chemo, they need to check the immune system if the immune system is high enough. Okay.
Mhm.
And every single time they will come to me and say, the nurse asked me if I'm taking something for the immune system, because the immune system not going down, actually the opposite, it's going up
Mhm.
during treatment,
Yeah.
because we are working together with the chemo, and we are starting to bring the immune system in between treatments to support and to actually go and do its work, which is basically taking out cancer cells away from the body. I just finished, for many, many years, I was teaching in Israel in Hebrew. And about 4 or 5 years ago, I arrived to London in order to translate everything to English, because I think that I arrived to my 60, right? I just got over 60, and I know for sure that this information needs to stay here. So,
Mhm.
and it needs to be international. So for the last 4 or 5 years, I'm over here trying, in my very weird way and very slow way, to put it all together for people to be able to go through it and learn. So I just came out with the first book, which is the first part of the basic workshop, which is the principles of healing. I still have another 2 books to write, basically. And I wanted to create like a program where people will not need me, because up to now I used to work one-on-one. But when I'm going internationally, we're talking about so many people, I cannot really work one-on-one. So I decided to create workshop. And I asked, and Athena was the first one who came for the chemo. For instance, I'll give her example. For an example, Athena is around her 40s, diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer. She arrived 2 days after she'd been diagnosed. So I could actually work with her quite immediate, because as soon as they're arriving close to the diagnosis, it's much easier to work with them before they start to put the fear and the wrong way of looking at it, and before they're rooting this part. So it's
Mhm.
easier to work with them. And she was very afraid, because she knew she believes in the conventional medicine, and she really demanded to take chemotherapy. But in
Mhm.
the same time, she was very afraid of what is going to happen to her. That's when she agreed to allow me um, uh, to put all of the workshop on Zoom, and to allow others to actually go and see her, to see the her journey with the
Mhm.
chemo. She just finished 6 months of chemotherapy or chemoECSTASY, no side effects whatsoever, and now she got the clear basically from the cancer.
Mhm.
Now, Athena decided to take the whole treatment because each one. I never teach a method. I teach principles where each one have to take it and create it his own. Why? Because cancer arrived to wake that person up. And if you give them a method, they will follow the method rather than follow themselves. And from my point of view, who've been there and done it, I think it's wrong. Because each one have to um, wake up to receive that wake up call. Yes, the principles are the same, but the way we're doing it is needs to suit each and every person. So at the moment, we're trying to put together we're trying to rush towards the conference that you put together, and we are trying the summit, and we're trying to actually put together the website and everything, so people can just come purchase it, and in the on time, they will have over there over 30 hours of training into the two workshops, the principles and turning it into chemoECSTASY, where they themselves will be able to do it as well. They will be able to go through chemo with no side effects, being happy, enjoy their life, and really, it's an opportunity to do the healing on the root healing,
Mhm.
because we are combining all of it together.
And it sounds amazing. And I think, I mean, I don't claim to understand all of it yet,
Yes, of course.
but I think it's already a very important conversation, like we said before. Um, in people do, right? We said people are scared about the unknown, and it sounds like you are giving them tools that they can turn by themselves into empowerment and into something that is actually not the focus of the treatment. It's actually of the journey. It's actually, like you said, what is the message, and what do I get from that? So uh, for me, it's definitely a very important conversation. But
We are, we are practically using the chemo, not as as a savior from cancer, but rather as a tool that we learn how to use it, that just deepen our ability to heal and to have that in a conversation. And beyond that, I think it's really dangerous to take chemo without this knowledge, because without this knowledge, the what actually happen if you do not change whatever happens in your body, your immune system is going to be harmed.
how are we going to bring this conversation to the right people?
That's the reason why I've decided, really, I spoke to you before that, and I said, seeing all the amazing 45 people that you gathered for
Mhm.
the summit, and seeing what they're doing, I realized that if you really want to give like a full spectrum of everything, then I actually will bring the chemoECSTASY. Not because chemoECSTASY is the answer to cancer, but just because too many people are doing it without being aware of how they're doing it. And taking chemo without awareness can be devastated sometimes. Now, at the end of this conversation, what I'm doing at the moment is I'm putting together a documentary, like a film between, at the moment, half an hour to three-quarter of an hour, on Athena's journey.
Mhm.
which I will probably give it to the people who would like to see it. I mean, in the end, I will put it in the page. So if people wants to see, they just need to write their emails over there, and we will send them the in order to view it. And seriously, it's so doable, and it's so simple and so fun, and it's like changing the whole thing. Like Athena keep on telling me, people just coming to her and say, "How are you so positive?" Because she's positive about everything. She was laughing all through. She never looked like a cancer patient. She even had like during the one she came to me and she said, "You know, I really feel bad because I see all those people suffering in the way they look through the cancer, and I'm just looking normal and enjoying myself and being happy. I feel I feel responsible, or I feel like like I'm." She started to have that kind of, how do you call it, guilt feelings.
Yeah. Yes. But I guess this is exactly what we want, right? I mean, someone like Athena, that she goes out there and people starting to ask that question, right? How come? How come she's not like everyone else? And this is how this is going to come up, go out there. But Gila, before we,
just just one thing, you will be surprised, because what actually happened when I decided to do this documentary and to send some people to send some cameramen in order to shoot Athena for an interview. We've decided to ask in the groups, in the cancer groups, what would you like to ask Athena, who just went through 6 months of chemo and never had any side effects? People just showed a lot of disbelief, and they came with questions like very nasty ones. Some of them like, "I don't believe her, she's lying. Ask her why she's lying," or "How come she that it I'm impossible," and all the rest of it. And that's where you ask a very good question, which is, how can we approach all of those people? I wish I knew. That's what I'm doing for the last 30 years. I went through cancer in such an amazing, wonderful way. Not only I loved cancer then, I love cancer now. Cancer gave me the biggest present because, from my point of view, cancer is a diamond of awareness that is wrapped in a frightening wrap. And
yeah,
what I teach them how to open the wrap, take away the frightening part, and to open the diamond of consciousness. Like Milena, another person that we actually shot another workshop of the principles of healing with her, because she didn't go through chemo. She kept on saying, "What I went through 2 months of learning it and studying the principles of healing, I couldn't do, not even in 20 years, on the psychology couch."
mhm,
And the reason being is because it's the combination of cancer and death that speed you're learning about yourself in a way that you don't really have any other chance in life to do it unless you have cancer.
yeah. That's what I noticed as well. That when people come to me and they have cancer, they're really like, okay, I'm listening now. What
Yeah.
do I do? Which is not necessarily the experience I have with people with other chronic conditions.
I
Um,
never tell them what to do. They tell I never tell them, and I will go with anything they want, because one of the one of the things that I found out when I did the research, I went and interviewed 9 people who healed themselves from cancer, went off and away from the conventional medicine and healed themselves. And I was trying to look for the common thing, what all of us did. And I even asked them a question. I asked them, give me the 3 things that you would give a person who just been diagnosed, like 3 SOS questions, basically, immediate, immediate things that you think he needs to receive.
Mhm.
One of the answers was the same for all of us. All of us, not even one was not saying it. And you know what it is? Responsibility, taking responsibility. The one common thing for all the people who heal themselves is to take responsibility, full responsibility. Now, it's a funny word, because from my experience, I know exactly how a lot of people with cancer react to it, which they think that responsibility, oh, you want to tell me that I'm responsible for my cancer? Beyond of the fact that I say yes, you made your cancer. It's not like you made it in an aware way,
Yeah.
but you create conditions that could host the cancer.
Mhm.
And once you know where you did it, it's much easier, because then you can actually turn it to the other side. You can heal it.
Yeah.
So easy. You know, once you're a victim of something you didn't do, you're a victim all the way. You cannot actually change it. But if you did something and you know what, you can reverse it. The most easy way. Now, so many people think, oh my God, this responsibility. But even forget about the responsibility of what you did before. It's the
Mhm.
responsibility, what you do right now with your life. What choices you're making in the here and now, in this moment, and then in the next moment, and then in the next moment. And you have a choice. You can be happy or you can suffer.
And that's what you teach, isn't it? It's really about finding joy in every moment.
As I keep on telling them, like, and if you die, what, you want to die without having fun before?
Yeah. And yeah, that's very deep, right? Because
Death is not in our hands. And I'm telling them, if you ask me if you're going to heal, it's not up to me. It's up to you. And beyond all of it is up to the universe, God, nature, whatever you want to call it. Okay? Death is not in our hands. But what are we doing until we die? That's in our hands. And beyond that, one of the things I keep on telling them, it's very funny the way I'm teaching, right? We are laughing all through, which is, uh, I see people fighting, really fighting to stay alive or to heal the cancer or not to die from cancer or whatever. And sometimes just holding them and I say, hold your horses for a second. I just want to remind you that even if you're going to heal the cancer, or even if you're going to be without the cancer, you're not exempt from dying.
that is yeah, a good reminder for sure.
You're still going to die. Even though I healed my cancer, I'm going to die still. So if cancer came and say, you have a threat of death, that was my choice and my ability to actually say, okay, let's look at death and suss out how we're feeling about it. Because in our modern society, we don't really deal with the subject of death. It's like we are throwing that thing away from us. And when we have anything to do with a threat of death, we're just going like why? It's the most natural, normal thing. And from my experience of healing my cancer, I can tell you for sure, My biggest teacher was not cancer. My biggest teacher was death. Death is the biggest teacher for life. And when we're arriving and dealing with the death and accepting death, I call this process accept to die. Because if you do not accept dying, you do not accept living to the full. You cannot live to the full. And once we're dealing with death, all the fears disappear.
Yeah. It's just there's so much, right? There's so much in your teaching that people will do very well to listen to and to reflect on, and really, you know, find a way to bring it onto their lives. Because yeah, I totally agree. It's you know, fear is important, but it's not a showstopper. It doesn't need to be a showstopper. It needs to guide us. It needs to just, you know, show us that there is something there. But other than that, that's really not the end goal.
I agree with you to a point, but the way I'm teaching and the principles, we're going through the emotional scale. And we know already what we're trying to achieve. What we're trying to achieve is to become energetically millionaire.
Mhm.
Our emotions can either deplete our energy or create energy. Fear is in the emotions that deplete energy. So, with all due respect, I understand that people have amazing reasons to be afraid. But that's part of the reason why in the workshop we're going through those fears and we're melting them. Because if they do not melt the fears, they practically helping the conditions for the cancer to thrive.
I think we're saying the same thing. I'm not saying, you know, feel the fear and keep it in. I am just saying, you know, first of all, for me, that's what I do. I really teach people how to not buy into the fear, but move into alignment and harmony. But I do also say that fear is important because it gives us a clue of something that is has been hidden for such a long time, and now it's on the surface. So let's look at this. Let's understand, you know, what is it I'm really scared of. For example, you know, why am I so scared to die? What is going on there? But then, yeah, absolutely. I'm not asking people to keep it around. It's not. But I like what you are. You know, the notion of what you're saying is that really we have to consciously maybe remind ourselves that actually we have a choice, and the choice ideally would be to bring joy, to elevate our emotions, to bring in this higher energy so that we can give this energy to the immune system, the nervous system, all of the systems that eventually will help us to heal. And I also really like what you said at the very beginning, this reminder that actually if you don't heal your immune system, you might just be in remission, but you haven't done, you know, the real job of what you're supposed to be doing. And it's important reminders.
And
Um,
that may, if I can just say over here, I mean, I start to say that I healed myself very soon after because I did the healing. I with the chemoECSTASY, as I told you before, you need to stop your immune system and then you need to shoot it up. So when you already know how to communicate with your immune system to such a degree,
mm,
you can say, I healed. And the signs for people who healed, by the way, who healed while they went through treatments, whichever treatments they went through, is that they do not have fear from cancer anymore. And one of the biggest thing is that a lot of people who get into remission, to my surprise, was to find out that that was a day that they get into depression.
That is interesting.
Because suddenly all the benefits of the cancer and all the secondary benefits of the cancer disappear. And they know that they didn't do the inner work. So they're really, and that fear and that depression brings cancer against the conditions of the cancer. That's when they're receiving it again and again. But people who did the inner work, once they arrive to remission or they don't have cancer anymore in their body, they just continue on. It's not even big celebration, because the big celebration was immediately when people start when people start to learn the principles of healing. Within 2-3 conversations, they're already high spirited. I cannot promise you that you will heal, because it's up to you and God and your body, but I can promise you that as soon as you're going to learn those things, you're going to be happy.
I think you're doing a really good job in creating more curiosity about your methods and the principles and how you teach and how you work with people. So I'm excited about that. That's really, I think it's wonderful that people will hear this and say, actually, I want to know more. I want to be one of these people that can do the inner work and be positive and be happy. Um, so Gila, we're nearly coming to the end of the conversation. Is there anything that you think we left out that you want to bring in, or is there a message that you want our viewers to go away with today?
Do you have another 5 hours? When I'm teaching this, sometimes we're going through 60 hours. We managed to put it in with the thinner. It's just sitting on 30 something hours, just due to the fact that the basic part of the biology was processed through the book. But otherwise, it takes me like 60 hours, because we really change completely the whole way of looking at cancer, the whole way they are living their life. People are saying like it's a course that changed their lives. And it's not like I'm changing it, it's they're changing themselves. And they're doing it themselves. Because I'm connecting them to the soul and to the inner guidance. I'm connecting them to what helped me heal. And what helped me heal was my inner guidance, was my soul, was my inner voices, was my. We have everything we need to heal, we have inside. And that's bring me to the last message that you wanted me to say, is basically everything we need to heal, we have inside. We just need to learn how to utilize and use it.
Yeah.
That's it. So simple. And thank you very much for what you're doing. And I wish that with your project and with all the rest of the people that join you in this summit, um, we will expose it to as many people as we can. Because seriously, it breaks my heart to see a person on cancer who suffers.
Yeah.
They don't have to suffer. They can go through the whole lot, but having a completely different experience.
But this is exactly the part of it, right? Because we say, so we hear cancer, we immediately go into the worst case scenario. We immediately go into dying. We immediately go into even kind of agreeing in a sense to the suffering if you decide to go to chemo and all of that. But it doesn't have to be this way. What I believe in is that we need to be able to have conversations that are really every person to their own. What is the journey? how do you want to move forward, based on you, not exactly about the, what is acceptance or fears and, limiting beliefs that people have around cancer. So that's really what I hope to bring.
But that is the reason why they need the principles.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's exactly the reason why I do not teach a method. You cannot teach a method, but the principles will take away all the what's the word in English? The misconceptions.
Yeah.
There's so much misconception about cancer, which is so further away from the truth. Just like the misconception that we touched on in this conversation with the conventional medicine. People go to the conventional medicine thinking that they have the cure for cancer. No, not only they don't have the cure to cancer, they're dealing with the symptom. And if you are not going to wake up to yourself in order to heal the root, because the root is in an emotional level.
Yeah.
And if you do not know how to drive yourself emotionally in a way that do not create conditions for the body to heal, then you have not yet healed your cancer.
And I totally agree with that.
And healing is so easy, so simple. I I have a completely different point of view on cancer, and everybody whom I'm teaching, like laughing all the time, enjoying themselves all the time. You know, when I did the chemoECSTASY, when I did it, I was laughing for hours a day. It was my job.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, like you said, there is a lot there, and I hope that with this conversation we manage to, scrap the surface and invite people to be more curious and to get in touch and to really find out more about your methods and your teachings. So thank you, Gila, for being here with us today, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I really do believe that people need to hear your approach and everything, because it's well, it can be the difference, right, between suffering and actually healing. So
yes, definitely.
yeah.
And especially when it's come to chemo, because chemo is dangerous without the knowledge, without this knowledge. Because if you destroy your immune system, you're doing exactly the opposite than healing.
Yeah, and that needs to get out there. But we could stay, 5 hours and all of that, but we have to finish for today. So thank you so much.